We'll call the Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020, City of Homestead Council meeting to order. It is now 9:02 p.m. We have a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Avila. Here. Councilman Fletcher.
Here.
Councilman Shelley. Councilman Shelley. Councilman Ross.
Here.
Councilwoman Bailey.
Here.
Vice Mayor Fairclough-Staggers. Vice Mayor. Mayor Losman.
I'm here. Thank you.
I'm here as well. Sorry, I came late. I'm here.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Oh, she'll chime in.
Was I recorded as here? I've been trying to say here.
That's first
Yes,
we've heard.
ma'am.
Oh, I'm here. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
No, we weren't.
Thank you.
Your name wasn't popping up on the screen, and we couldn't hear you until just now. Okay. Are there any additions, deletions, or deferrals?
Yes, Mayor. There's two deferrals for tab 14 and tab 15 to a date certain of October 21st, 2020. This request preserves the advertisement of these items. Tab 14 is an amendment to the comprehensive plan, the water supply, and we want to defer it because the South Water Management District has not completed their review of the water supply plan, and we would like to ensure that they will not require any edits prior to adoption. Tab 15 is the floodplain management ordinance, and this ordinance language prepared by FEMA's consultant includes provisions for variances, which staff is seeking for clarification on, and that's why we're asking for the deferrals.
All right, thank you.
Attorney also has something, Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Two quick things, Mayor. One, I wanted to clarify, we need to move tab 10. It's not quite judicial. It'll be a legislative item. And I know that you wanted the last meeting to be the last time you read the statement on the virtual meeting, but this is a new meeting. Can I trouble you to read it one more time?
Yes, I realize that I need to go back and do that. Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
so 10 is going to go to the legislative session. Tab 10 is
correct.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Pursuant to Executive Order 20-193 issued by Governor DeSantis and the City of Homestead local state of emergency due to COVID-19, this will be a virtual council meeting. The virtual meeting can be viewed live on City Access Channel or live stream at cityofhomestead.com/public meeting. The public may also participate live during the virtual meeting utilizing video conference via WebEx events or via toll-free conference call number. Please go to cityofhomestead.com/calendar for specific details and instructions on participation utilizing video and telephonic conferencing. The city has accepted public comments as part of the virtual meeting, which can be emailed to publiccomments@cityofhomestead.com. Public comments are limited to 300 words per comment. Public comments on specific agenda items should also include your name, address, and the item you would like to comment on and your comment. That may be submitted up until noon yesterday, September 22nd, 2020, and reviewed by council as part of the record. General public comments, which should also include your name and address, can be submitted up to 30 minutes after the end of the virtual council meeting and will be included in the minutes. Further details and instructions regarding public participation in the virtual meeting are referenced in the City of Homestead Virtual Meetings Quick Start Guide located on the city's website. So, first item tonight, agenda item number 4, consent agenda, tab numbers 1 through 7. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move it.
Moved by Councilman Roth. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Do we have any opposed to approval of the consent agenda? None appearing. All right. Agenda item number 5, public hearings. These items. Mr. White, are you here?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. Yes, this is the quasi-judicial section of your agenda. Please be advised the following items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon any of these items, please indicate the item number you would like to address when the announcement regarding the quasi-judicial item is made. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. Swearing in, all testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to either be cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the counsel to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. The full agenda packet on each item is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedures may be obtained from the clerk. In accordance with Code Section 2-591, any lobbyist must register before addressing the council on any of the following items. At this time, council members must disclose any ex parte communications concerning any items on the agenda under tab 5.
There.
Yes, Councilman.
I have tab 9, 10's been moved, 11 and 12, conversations with the applicants.
Thank you, Councilman Roth. Any
Mayor?
disclosures? Yes, Councilman Shelley.
Yeah, I spoke with the applicant on tab 9, 10, and 11.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Fletcher, Councilman Fletcher.
I spoke with the applicant on tabs 9, 10, and 11 as well.
Thank you. Vice Mayor? Councilwoman Avila, any disclosures?
Yes, the same as well, 9, 10, and 11. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Bailey?
10 and 11 as well, Mayor.
I had conversations with respect to tab 9 with the applicant's attorney, as well as tab 10, which has been moved to a legislative issue, and as well as tab 11. Vice Mayor, back with us.
Here, Mayor. I spoke with the applicant on tab 9.
Thank you.
So, Mayor, hearing no further ex parte disclosures, at this time I would ask the clerk to swear in anyone who's wishing to speak or testify this evening on the quasi-judicial items.
Please state your name. I hereby swear or affirm that the information I present shall be the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White, tab 8.
Yes, Mayor. Tab 8 is a final order of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting a certificate of use requested by Outback Steakhouse of Florida, LLC, to permit the sale of beer, wine, and alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption in conjunction with the operation of a restaurant located at 2835 Northeast 8th Street as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Cordina?
Yes, sir. The staff recommends that the mayor and council approve this final order for the Outback Steakhouse, granting them the certificate of use to have the sale of beer, wine, and alcoholic beverages on this property. This property is currently zoned planned unit development, and it's got a future land use designation of light commercial use. The restaurant's a standalone restaurant on an out parcel in conjunction with a development consisting of a couple of hotels and a proposed multi-tenant retail building. The applicant has submitted a survey to us indicating that there are no churches, government property, public parks, or schools within the prescribed distance of 400 feet from the property. So again, it fits within our code, and we are recommending approval.
Thank you, Mr. Cordino. Appreciate it. Is the applicant present? Or is anyone here on behalf of the applicant?
The applicant is present, and they have also submitted a PowerPoint presentation that we can play for you at this time.
Let's do that. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Kristen Catasus. I am an associate in Gray Robinson's Miami office, and I am here on behalf of the applicant, Outback Steakhouse of Florida, LLC, to represent their request for a certificate of use. Outback Steakhouse is a part of Bloomin' Brands. It's one of the world's largest casual dining companies, currently employing more than 93,000 team members and more than 1,400 restaurants around the world. Bloomin' Brands was recently named to Forbes' list of America's Best Employers for Diversity and America's Best Employers for Women. Outback Steakhouse is an Australian-spirited casual dining restaurant that strives to provide fresh, everyday flavors and creations. It's best known for its grilled steaks, chicken, and seafood, but also offers a variety of salads, soups, and sides. Bloomin' Brands is dedicated to working to improve how it supports its people, preserve the environment, and increase the quality and sustainability of ingredients in order to provide an exceptional guest experience. Bloomin' Brands' first commitment as a company has always been to its people and to foster a welcoming and inclusive culture where team members can thrive, be themselves, and deliver memorable experiences. To perfect the environment, Bloomin' Brands prioritizes working with key stakeholders to build on current progress and identify new measures that include conserving water, operating with more energy efficiency, and redirecting excess food away from landfills. Bloomin' Brands focuses on its ingredients by keeping its long-standing dedication to food safety and seeking opportunities to improve the sustainability of the items it buys. I appear before you today to request approval of the applicant's certificate of use application. Applicant is located at Campbell Drive in Southeast 152nd Avenue in Homestead, Florida. The owner of the property is SFDIL LLC, and the applicant currently holds a valid lease agreement to operate a restaurant on the premises. The applicant intends to operate a full-service restaurant at the premises. Applicant would like to sell beer, wine, and spirits for on-premise consumption through a State of Florida Division of Alcoholic Beverages and Tobacco Type 4 COP SFS alcohol beverage license. The proposed hours of sale are Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. through 10 p.m., and Friday and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. The applicant will fully comply with all hours of sale restrictions contained in Section 3-9 of the City of Homestead Code of Ordinances. Applicant's premises complies with the restriction on locations for premises selling alcoholic beverages as contained in Section 3-6 of the City of Homestead's Code of Ordinances. The premise is also located more than 400 feet away from any church, government property, public park, or school, as provided in the alcohol survey. The proposed use and structure of the premises complies with local zoning regulations in terms of use and structure, and interior renovations to the premises will be conducted in accordance with approved plans and in accordance with city and state building codes and requirements. In addition, The applicant will meet the following criteria for a certificate of use permit. The applicant will not generate excessive noise or traffic. The premises is compatible with adjacent commercial zoning and future land use designations and is not anticipated that the proposed restaurant or the alcohol beverage use thereon will contribute noise or excessive traffic. The applicant will not tend to create a fire or other equally dangerous hazard. This restaurant has been designed in full compliance with all state and local laws regarding fire safety and complies with occupancy limits. In addition, applicant has designed the layout of the premises to facilitate patron egress in the event of an emergency. Applicant will not provoke excessive overcrowding or concentration of people or population. Again, the premises will comply with fire occupancy limits and are designed in a way to promote the even distribution of patrons throughout the dining areas. This will include ample entry vestibule and queuing area to house patrons who are waiting for a seat, as well as ample seating to accommodate anticipated patron levels. Applicant will not endanger the health, safety, or welfare of the residents of Homestead. The applicant intends to operate its restaurant in full compliance with federal, state, and local laws. Applicant responsibly and successfully operates Outback Steakhouse locations throughout the country and the world and will continue to be a responsible vendor of alcohol beverages in Florida. Additionally, the applicant has secured approval of its plan with the Florida Division of Hotels and Restaurants and will only begin operations once it has been issued its Florida service license to ensure that all food safety protocol set forth in the food code is complied with. The applicant will be compatible with adjoining properties or surrounding neighborhoods. The premises are within the City of Homestead's B2 zoning district, which permits restaurant use by right and includes other already established restaurants such as Longhorn Steakhouse and Olive Garden. In support of its application, the applicant has produced all the documents requested by the City of Homestead in its application, including a call for service, cost recovery affidavit, previously approved entitlements, a letter of consent signed by the property owner, articles of incorporation, legal description of the premises, alcohol survey, boundary survey, property lease agreement, and all requested fees. In conclusion, based on the foregoing and applicant's submitted application, we respectfully request that this board approve Outback Steakhouse of Florida, LLC for a certificate of use to permit the on-premise sale and consumption of beer, wine, and spirits in conjunction with a restaurant. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you for coming down and for your patience tonight with our prior meeting. Just wanted, I guess, the benefits of these remote meetings. You could not be constrained to sitting in our council chambers for 4 hours waiting your turn. Any questions or comments from council?
I'll move it, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. A motion for approval by Mr. Roth.
Second.
A second by Mr. Fletcher. Any further discussion? Okay. Thank you all. So we'll close the public hearing and have a roll call vote on the motion for approval.
Councilwoman Avila?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Councilman Ross?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Sargent,
Yes.
Mayor Lawson,
Yes.
the motion carries.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you to the applicant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tab 9, Mr. White.
Yes, Mayor. This is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the rezoning requested by Avocado Animal Hospital, LLC, of an approximately 0.29 acre parcel from restricted retail commercial B1 zoning district to retail commercial B2 zoning district for a property located at 426 North Chrome Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for conflict, severability, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading.
Thank you. We'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone, is the applicant here or applicant's representative to make a presentation or speak on this matter?
Good evening, Mayor. Yes, I am here, and I have submitted a presentation that staff will be playing for you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council members. Vanessa Madrid with the offices of Holland & Knight, located at 701 Brickell Avenue, Miami, Florida, 33131. And I am here before you on behalf of Avocado Animal Hospital, LLC, who is also present tonight and available to answer any questions. Before I continue, I would like to reserve a few minutes for rebuttal. This application is very simple and straightforward. We are here seeking a rezoning from B1 restricted retail commercial to B2 retail commercial for the property located at 426 North Chrome Avenue in the city's downtown area. Property has a land use designation of downtown mixed use, DMU, on the city's future land use map, and has a B1 zoning district classification on the city zoning map. Essentially, this would make the property red in the city's zoning map, which, as you can see on this image, the change would be entirely compatible with the property surroundings. In fact, the property immediately to the south is Zone B2, and so are various other properties on the blocks to the south. The purpose of the rezoning request is to allow a veterinary facility within the existing building on the property. The DMU land use category emphasizes the importance of the availability of services within the DMU land use category, which allows light commercial uses, including office, retail, restaurants, banking, etc. A vet facility falls within that category of light commercial uses, since it is a medical office providing services to domestic animals by professional and trained staff. The city's comprehensive plan also recognizes that the DMU land use designation is appropriate in B2 zoning districts. This means that the proposed rezoning is wholly consistent with the property's DMU land use designation. As shown here, the property is approximately 1/3 of an acre, and it is improved with a standalone building and designated off-street parking area. In addition, there are 2 entrances, one on each side of the building, allowing for easy access from the corridor and heightened visibility. This property is the ideal new home for the applicant's vet facility. I believe this application is very special and is definitely a success story the city should be proud of, especially during these difficult times. It is hurricane season, and we are all still very much impacted by COVID-19. Nevertheless, here we have a husband and wife, the applicants and owners of Avocado Animal Hospital, which was originally founded in 1985 here in the city of Homestead, and which are looking to relocate because they have a thriving practice. This family-owned and community small business has outgrown its current location and is seeking to expand and relocate to a more central and improved location in the city's downtown. Today, they're working from a small facility that limits their capacity and ability to keep up with the veterinary medical needs of the community. They're experiencing a very high volume of visits and are ready to hire another doctor as well as additional support staff, but are unable to hire at this time due to space limitations. If this rezoning to B2 is approved, the applicant will be able to relocate its current facility to the building on the property, which would result in a huge increase in usable space. With 3 times more square footage than they currently have, the applicants will be able to grow their business to meet the community's needs. I want to clarify that this facility is intended to provide on-site medical care to domestic animals. Veterinary medical services for larger animals like pigs, goats, and horses will be performed off-site and on an on-call basis. Also, only overnight stays will be provided for pets undergoing certain surgical procedures, ongoing treatment, or emergency or critical care. Once the pet is stabilized, it will be released. So although equipped for hospitalizations, the facility will not operate as a boarding facility or pet hotel. The applicants have also proffered a declaration of restrictions limiting the more intense uses on the property that would otherwise be allowed in the B2 zoning district. Let me also point out that State Road 997, also known as Chrome Avenue, is a major route that is supposed to provide the commercial and neighborhood serving uses much desired by the city's residents. The approval of this application will not have any negative impacts on the area and is compatible with the comprehensive plan, the code, and the pattern of land uses on the surrounding areas. This approval is key to the success of the applicant's local family business. Staff is supportive of this application. We received the Planning and Zoning Board's recommendation for approval last month, and we urge you to recommend for approval tonight. Thank you, and we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Council. Appreciate that. Just a reminder, if you are a member of the public and would like to speak on a land use application, if you're logged into your computer and would like to speak on an item, click the raise your hand option to be acknowledged, and then once you're acknowledged, please provide your name and address for the record. If you're logged in by telephone and would like to speak regarding an agenda item, press *3 to raise your hand to be acknowledged. And then once you're acknowledged, please provide your name and address for the record. Council, any questions or comments?
Mayor?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, having been in their waiting room quite a few times, I can definitely attest to them needing more space. I'm really happy to see this. I did have a few concerns, but they were all addressed with the declaration of restrictions. So I would like to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Bailey.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Fletcher.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question for staff. In regards to the declaration of restrictions, the property to the north of this that contains the same zoning, do they have any restrictions on their property?
No, sir.
So I would just offer up for thought that, we have a local business that's trying to move into a new location, but yet we're placing restrictions on their use of the same zoning criteria that their neighbors to the north would not have. So I would be wondering why we would ask for those restrictions. Thank you.
Mayor, this is James. If I could for a moment. The city is not requesting or asking for the restrictions. The property owner is proffering a declaration for consideration this evening.
So if I understand that correctly, we could move this without the proffer for additional items.
Correct. Council member, you could, if you were so inclined this evening, you could approve the rezoning without the applicant's proper declaration of restrictions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilwoman.
I would Thank you. I echo the sentiments of Councilman Fletcher, and if there aren't any restrictions on the neighbors to the north, unless there's an objection from the applicant, I don't see why we wouldn't eliminate this having to come back to us in the future for the same business or future business trying to also improve their position. So if there is no objection from the applicant, then I'll make the motion to approve it without the restriction.
Mayor, if I may.
Sure, yes, Councilwoman.
Can we allow the applicant to speak a little on why they wanted to proffer those restrictions in the first place?
Yes, I was about to call for their input on that.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. So we are proffering the declaration of restrictions in case there were concerns, but obviously if there are no concerns, we'd be happy to move forward without it. We just wanted to ensure that whatever comes here, you were comfortable with and would know that it would be compatible no matter what with your vision for this area. But we wholeheartedly appreciate your recognition of the fact that our neighbors don't have any restrictions, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. Councilwoman and Avila and Councilman Fletcher and Council for the applicant and I touched on this briefly in our conversation. This application, in my view, is sort of a reflection on the archaic and outdated nature of our entire code and our land use code in particular. There are, in other very similar zoning categories, veterinary offices not allowed, but medical uses are. And, veterinary office is right now pigeonholed in a B2. B2 has some pretty intensive and egregious and noisy and dirty uses that are probably not real compatible with what we'd like to see in our true downtown. And this is right at the edge of what I would consider our core downtown. And I view this proffer as a show of good faith by the applicant to protect that. If something were to happen unexpectedly and they were no longer there, the rezoning to a B2 without these restrictions opens the barn door to a wide plethora of uses that we may be scratching our heads and asking, how did we get here? But with respect to the neighboring property not having those restrictions, if they already had a B2 and if they are operating a use that is permitted in a B2, there's no reason for those restrictions to have ever been requested. I think long term is probably the answer to this issue and many others, is to bite the bullet financially and go through and modernize our code. And while I can see the perspective of Councilman Fletcher and Councilwoman Avila, I view this as kind of a layer of protection from ourselves, from our own code, and a show of good faith from the applicant that they really intend to do what they say they're going to do there and not leave the door open to have a more egregious use.
Mayor?
Councilman Shelley.
Yeah, actually, you beat me to it because I was going to echo your sentiments, which was, without the restriction, I might not support the ultimate application here because there are some uses there that I don't necessarily want to see in our downtown as we're looking to revitalize it, and that becomes maybe the gateway to hopefully a revitalized area as we move forward into the future. Some of those uses would not be ones that I would want to see that property turn into, and or have the neighboring property owners start to acquire unrestricted B2 parcels, and next thing you know, some of the, a big car lot could go in there, a couple other things that I don't think necessarily would fit the feel or what we want for the downtown. So although the neighbors do have a B2 use that currently is unrestricted, partially is to set the standard going forward of what we want our downtown to look like, but also to prohibit those property owners from potentially gathering all of these parcels together and building something even larger in a scale and scope that we wouldn't necessarily find to be a good gateway entryway. So I also would prefer to have the restrictions remain. Otherwise, I may not support the property. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor
And
Shelley.
we're comfortable with that, of course.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. And I want to echo Councilor Shelley's sentiments that, in large measure, for me, this is a no-brainer application. Your proffer of the declaration of restrictions, greatly limiting the B2 uses, while preserving the uses that are surrounding you in other zoning categories, is a real show of good faith, and I think a good sign for the future development of our downtown and a revitalization of that stretch of Chrome Avenue. So again, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Councilman Fletcher.
Yeah, although I can't agree with both you and Councilman Shelley on this, I just find it odd that I just wanted to make sure that we weren't placing this restriction on them, that they came to this decision on their own. It wasn't something that the city was placing on them, because we need to become more friendly to businesses that want to move and help revitalize our downtown area. And I understand the restrictions. I just want to make sure we're not the ones, driving them to properties that could restrict them from something further in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further from council? To get back into, make sure I'm correct in the proceed, is there a motion to approve without the declaration, and has that been seconded?
I'll withdraw that motion.
Is that procedurally correct, Mr. White or Mr. Poole? I don't think did you have a second?
Mayor, I don't believe there was a second to that motion.
Okay, thank you. That makes it easier then. So, Councilwoman, would you like to move approval as presented?
Yes, I'll motion as presented. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
Got a second by Councilwoman Bailey. Is there anything further from council? Is there anyone out in the public who would wish to make a comment on this application? Okay, well then I'll close the public hearing and call for a roll call vote on tab 9, the Avocado Animal Hospital.
Councilman Shelley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila,
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher, Councilman Fletcher,
Yes, I'm sorry, I got disconnected for a second.
Councilman Ross,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough Staggers,
Yes.
Mayor Losner.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. All right, so we're skipping tab 10.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, staff, for working with us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Quite a success story. We're moving on to tab 11 at this point.
That's correct, Mayor. We're skipping over tab 10. We'll pick that back up under legislative matters. Moving on to tab 11. It's the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the development order for the villages of Homestead Development of Regional Impact, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Cordino or Ms. Lopez, whoever's got it.
I got it. Staff recommends the mayor and council approve the proposed amendment to the Villages of Homestead Development of Regional Impact, the DRI, and its master plan formerly referred to as the Notice of Proposed Change, or NOPC. The applicant's requesting to establish a new land use category called motorsports mixed industrial within the DRI. And what they want to do is reclassify about 34 acres that are currently designated a motorsport facility overflow parking to this category. Additionally, they're requesting the development order master plan amendment provides the maximum approved 3 million square feet of industrial use currently allocated within the 244 acres that are designated industrial, also to be allocated to this category for future development. So we are recommending approval of this.
Thank you, Mr. Corradino. Appreciate it. Do we have a representative for the applicant, or the applicant present?
Mr. Mayor, the applicant is present, and they have provided a PowerPoint presentation for the council's review, and then Mr. Al Garcia would like to make a statement and address the council after the presentation.
Very good. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Heidi Davis, and I'm an attorney with the law firm of Gunster, here tonight alongside Gabriel Nieto of Roscoe Block and attorney George Luis Lopez on behalf of Homestead Miami Speedway, LLC, to present an exciting new project and one that will bring hundreds of jobs and economic vitality to the city of Homestead. The proposed project is a 145,125 square foot distribution center for receiving, storing, and distributing various retail products for local distribution throughout the city of Homestead and nearby areas. This facility is for the critical last mile, allowing same-day or next-day deliveries. This will become a major employment center in the city and also provide fast and efficient e-commerce delivery service to city residents. The project is to be located on an underutilized outparcel of property owned by the Speedway, currently used for overflow parking and as an RV campground during race events. The parcel is 33.94 acres and is located south of Palm Avenue, just southwest of the Speedway. The property lies within Sector 18 of the Villages of Homestead, DRI. We are here tonight to request a proposed amendment to the Villages of Homestead Development of Regional Impact Development Order and Master Plan. The NOPC application amends the Villages of Homestead DRI, which is a large area-wide DRI that allows for various land uses. This DRI, which was first adopted in 1975, controls many of the land uses in the city, including this site and the Speedway racing areas. The DRI currently allows for both motorsports and industrial uses in different areas and sets limits on both. We are amending the DRI to allow some of the already approved industrial square footage to be developed on this site. Uses are allocated by sector in the DRI, so we are seeking an amendment to allow a new motorsport mixed industrial classification that allows us to use the industrial capacity in the DRI on this site. Because the DRI already allowed for up to 3.1 million square feet of industrial use, which is not being exceeded, there is no change in density or intensity of any use. We have also worked with staff to develop guidelines and criteria for the motorsport mixed industrial category. This is the present DRI map and the proposed change. The light green areas show the current location of the motorsports uses, and the gray area shows the current industrial area. The new checkered blue area is the motorsport mixed industrial area, which allows this site to develop motorsports or industrial uses consistent with the vested limits in the DRI. This slide shows the legislative change to the DRI order. We are asking the city to adopt the change to the DRI Development Order Ordinance to allow for more flexible development of light industrial uses in motorsports areas, subject to the DRI's limitation on industrial use. The proposed change for this parcel under the DRI allows motorsports or industrial uses together or in combination. Additionally, we are reducing the motorsports facility acreage to move 33.94 acres to this new category, which will then accommodate the proposed distribution facility. No new impacts are created as the DRI has already vested these uses. In conjunction with this application to amend the DRI development order, we have concurrent applications pending, including the site plan to process the 145,125 square foot distribution facility, a tentative plat for the 33.94 acre parcel, and a minor landscape variance on the site plan. 2 weeks ago, the Planning and Zoning Board unanimously recommended approval of all 4 of the applications. If the amendment is approved this evening, all 4 will be presented to you at the October Council meeting. As stated before, the proposed project will bring the city an economic boost and hundreds of jobs. To examine the economic impact of the proposed distribution facility, we hired a team from Florida State University to calculate the jobs created and the secondary economic impacts. We have provided a full economic report from FSU to the city. The results are summarized on this chart, which shows that there will be hundreds of new jobs created and approximately $148 million in positive direct economic impacts to the city. This number does not include the significant additional secondary impacts to local businesses. We are extremely excited about this project and bringing it to the city of Homestead. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present tonight. If you have any questions, we have our team here who would be happy to answer them. We would also like to respectfully reserve a few minutes for rebuttal as may be appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Is Al Garcia up next?
Mr. Garcia has been unmuted by IT, so he should be able to speak.
Al Garcia, are you there?
He doesn't seem to be connected by audio.
So this is Heidi Davis from Gunster. If Al can't speak or anybody else will, I'd be happy to. Oh, there's Al. Okay. Thank you. You can't, does he have his mute? Can't hear you.
Al?
Did we lose him again?
Did we lose him or did he mute himself?
Beat up, but they terrible.
Ms. Davis, can you pinch hit for Al until we can get back in?
Sure, I can just pinch hit on some of the things, but I know Al was extremely grateful to have all of you and the support that we've received from staff and all the help that we've received from staff to get us where we are today. It's been a long project coming through, but we are so happy to be here. And we really wanted to thank your team and your staff and for getting us and helping us along the way.
Thank you. I know it's been a long time coming. We first met here in my office at City Hall, late February, maybe? Certainly before the
way before
the lockdown. So.
Yes.
And I did listen with one ear to your P&Z presentation, and I know what's coming. I got a message for IT to unmute Gabrielle Nito.
Okay, it's unmuted now. Gabriel.
Okay, you're there.
Okay, great. Yeah, we
All
switched
right.
over to a different computer.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, my name is Al Garcia. I'm the president of Homestead Miami Speedway with a business address of 1 Speedway Boulevard, Homestead, Florida 33035. I'll be brief, and I apologize for the technical issues, but I want to first of all commend the staff for diligently reviewing our application. They worked very hard and very thorough. This project is time sensitive, and I think that as the Speedway was built on the heels of Hurricane Andrew to create an economic benefit for the city of Homestead and South Dade area, I think this project is equally as exciting and will continue and drive even more economic benefit to our community. So I really appreciate your consideration, and we're standing by to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Al, and I'll turn it over to council now with any questions or comments they may have.
Mayor, for me?
Vice Mayor, certainly.
Hi, very quickly. I reflected earlier that I had only spoken to the applicants on tab 9, but I had in fact spoken to the applicants for 10 and 11, so I want the record to reflect that. I'm going to be very quick. I support this agenda item. This is something that we need in this particular area in the community. I can't discuss further because I have to log off. I have a family member in New York, and I have to log off.
Thank you. Council?
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, Councilman Bailey.
I'm also very excited about this. I wanted to thank Mr. Garcia for bringing this forward. I'm sure that it was a lot. There was so much involved, and I'm very excited to see all these new jobs and what it means for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. This is a big event.
Mr. Mayor.
Council Fletcher.
Yeah, to all, echo the sentiment of my colleagues. The track has always been a great partner to the city of Homestead, and the continued efforts for them to continue to look for other avenues to help boost our local economy, especially now in these troubled times, is a great pat on the back to Al and his team, and looking forward to the day we get to dig some dirt up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilman. Any further questions or comments from council? Do we have a motion for approval?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Fletcher, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. Councilwoman Alvo, were you trying to chime in?
No, sir.
Oh, okay, because I saw your name pop up as if you were. Okay.
Just ready to vote. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Aren't we all? Okay. Did you say, is there anyone in line from the public that would wish to weigh in on this that we're aware of?
I don't see anybody, Mayor.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, let's have a roll call vote then.
Councilman Ross?
Yes.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila?
Yes.
Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
much.
you, thank you, Ms. Davis and Mr. Garcia. We will see you next month. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, so we are now at tab 12.
Yes, Mayor. So the last item for quasi-judicial this evening is tab 12, which is the second reading of a proposed rezoning ordinance. The companion application to that is the first item under legislative matters, which is tab 13, which is the second reading of an ordinance for a future land use map amendment. I can introduce both of these. You could have a collective public hearing, discussion, conversation, but I would ask that the council take a separate vote on each action, but start with tab 13 first, and then vote on the rezoning, tab 12, after the comp plan amendment.
Sure, let's do that. Thank you.
All right, so tab 12 is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the rezoning and release of the recorded amended covenant running with the land requested by Kings Highway LLC from professional business restricted B1A zoning district to one family R1 zoning district for 3 adjacently located parcels of land consisting of approximately 0.58 acres, generally located north of Northwest 15th Street, east of Northwest 2nd Avenue, south of Northwest 16th Street, and west of Northwest 1st Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for conflict, severability, and providing for an effective date. Tab 13 is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the comprehensive plan future land use map designation requested by Kings Highway for 3 adjacently located parcels of land consisting of approximately 0.58 acres from light commercial use LCU to low residential use LRU for property generally located north of Northwest 15th Street, east of Northwest 2nd Avenue, south of Northwest 16th Street, and west of Northwest 1st Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for conflict, severability, inclusion in the comprehensive plan, and providing for an effective date. These are both second reading.
Thank you. Mr. Cordino?
The staff recommends the mayor and council approve both of the applications for the request for the rezoning and the comprehensive plan. Effectively, what we've got here are 3 adjacently located vacant parcels of land at this location. The 3 platted parcels are located in the plat book. They are simply changing from B1A to the residential use. We discussed it at the last council meeting. 2 of the parcels are substandard in size based on the code, which wants you to have 7,500 square feet. The 2 of them are about 6,500 square feet. If you put them all together, they could give you 3 7,500 square foot lots. We examined this issue and found that because the lots are platted, and with that, we're recommending approval. I think would be a positive.
Thank you, Mr. Cordino. Is the applicant present this time?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, yeah. I'm here. Leticia Brenner.
Thank you. Ms. Brenner, is there anything you'd like to add to the application or the information we need to have?
No, Mr. Mayor, I think that we have all the information in our application. I think that this is a very, seeing all the cases that I saw, I think that this is a kind of simple application. And then we have, we present all the construction plan, we present the surveys, we present all the documentation, the warranty deed of the properties, the surveys, everything that they were asking for.
Right, I understand. One of the questions that was raised at the meeting last month when we considered this on first reading was an issue that the director addressed a moment ago, was that generally the code provides for lots in this zoning district that you're requesting to have 60 feet of frontage, a width of 60 feet, and 7,500 square feet of space. As these lots are configured, I noticed that the 2 outside lots are little 50-foot lots, and the middle one is an 89-foot wide lot. It's almost twice as wide as either one of the other 2 lots.
Yeah.
Do you plan on putting a bigger house on that lot, or is it going to be the same model, or what's going to be the configuration?
Yeah, no, Mr. Mayor, it's gonna be the same model. It's gonna be the same size of houses, 2,040 square feet, and the same model like I mentioned before. Same exactly model.
All right. Okay. Very good. And you need to be in this part of the conversation, and I want to turn to Mr. White. I don't want to put. I have a personal belief that for that neighborhood and philosophically, that side of town, there's a reason we have the ordinance that provides for 7,500 square foot lots. And by what means, if the applicant would agree to it, other than a replat, could we implement a configuration such that the three lots would be of roughly equal size? I mean, I know how mechanically at a closing to do that, but what process would we need to do, or is there a process other than replat to, in effect, carve off a piece off of either side of the middle lot to widen up the two smaller outside lots? That's what I would like to see happen. And I was wondering if you could guide us through some of the painless and non-time consuming process that might be available to accomplish that, should the applicant agree with it.
Yeah, well, Mayor, I can cut to the chase on that. The only way to accomplish that would be pursuant to a plat, but in this case, we have the ability, or the city has the ability, the applicant has the ability to apply for a waiver of plat. That's usually when you're making subdivisions that are less than a few lots. You could process the waiver of plat. That would require a survey that basically provides the details that you would normally have for a plat, except it shortens the time frame, and it's one reading by the council pursuant to a resolution, and then they would have to go to the county and go through the county's waiver of plat process. That would legitimize the buildable lots. Certainly we have people that come in, or people that all the time go to the property appraiser and request a split or carve out of property and request an RE number, and it may not be buildable. And oftentimes they'll come into the city and they've created a non-buildable lot, and they haven't gone through the waiver of plat process. And so staff is busy trying to clean it up to, address those issues. So I don't think a legal instrument short of a waiver of plat is going to accomplish the subdivision or re-subdivision of these three parcels. I mean, certainly the applicant can unify parcels for purpose of the development, and that can be done by a simple legal instrument. But with regards to a re-subdivision of these lots, that would require a waiver of plat in this instance.
Right. So for example, then what you're saying is, if the applicant came in with an application to build a house on lot 1 in the west 12 feet of lot 2, that wouldn't be a way to accomplish it. It wouldn't be built. You've then destroyed the buildability by adding to a lot.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure I quite understand. I mean, certainly the applicant could, if you're replatting a parcel of property, we're going to be creating new lots, new lot lines. And the only way that I'm aware to be able to legally do that is through this waiver of plat process.
I'm sorry, there's no way that we can dedicate one part of the big lot to one of the, because the big lot is in the middle of the small ones. There's no way that we can dedicate part of the middle of the lot to the other lots, to the each side?
That's what I'm trying to determine. And let me give you, James, let me give you an example. My first house here in Homestead was lot 17 and 18 and the west 17 feet of lot 19. That's not a solution here for them to come in with building permits for lot 1 and a portion of lot 2, and then a building permit for lot 2 less the west X feet and the east X feet. That's still of legal size with what's left.
Yeah, just change the legal description, right?
That's what I'm asking the attorneys.
Well,
I'd really like to see wider lots on the two outside ones.
Yeah, and I think the way to accomplish that, Mayor, is through the waiver of plat process, which is the way that your staff has traditionally always interpreted that and dealt with subdivisions of property. I mean, certainly you could create a legal description and you could, unify parcels of property, carve out something, but just because you carve out something or take away from one and add to it doesn't necessarily mean that that it would be a buildable conforming lot.
Well, all three are right now buildable lots. And all we would be doing is reducing the size of the larger lot, but the remaining size of the middle larger lot would still be to code.
Yeah, to make
and I get the unity of title issue that once you move a strip from the middle lot to another lot, they've got to travel together. I get that. And Ms. Brenner, you understand what I'm trying to get at, right? Three equally sized lots?
I make the calculations. It would be
63 feet more or less.
63 feet each one. Yeah, you're right.
Right. And the reason I ask you about the model for the middle, if you're putting the same model on the 89-foot wide lot as you are on the 50-foot lot, it's kind of like wasting space.
Yeah.
Not getting the most use out of that lot, and it creates kind of a more elbow room situation. So I guess, they would move this forward and then I'd work with you through the staff process and see if we can accomplish this, what I think you'd like to see and what I'd like to see, without undue time and expense to move forward.
Yeah, I appreciate, because we are wasting so much time. We have the plans approved since the beginning of the year, and we're gonna spend more time and, like you said, money for the waiver and everything.
Right, I understand. I'm trying to find a way to accomplish, I think, what we both would like to see without that additional time and expense.
Oh, yeah.
Anything further from council?
Mayor?
Council Shelley.
Yeah, just to weigh in a little bit of stuff myself. I know I've raised some similar concerns during the last council meeting, regarding the waiting plots with look and the houses on them. I think truthfully, even for me, even if we get them to the three equal lots in that respect, I mean, it's still going to be fairly small houses, or actually decent sized houses, but make the lots still pretty small. You're not going to have much in the way of yard space. I mean, I know that's where some of the other infill houses have looked in the Northwest, even when they complied with the 7,500 square feet requirement. They look like completely different than the rest of the neighborhood. Everyone else has kind of a yard around their house. They may be a smaller house, but at least it has the same feel and look, where a lot of the infill houses are bigger houses that take up the majority of the lot with very little in the way of green space. So I personally would prefer to see 2 versus 3, and so I'm hesitant to approve it, although I'd rather see single-family houses than probably the light commercial there, just because of where it is in that particular block or neighborhood. I still don't know that I'm satisfied or would be happy necessarily with the 3 7,500 square foot lots. So I may vote against this because of that. I also have concerns if you guys don't solve this with a waiver of plat to at least get it to the 7,500 square foot prior to approval. I mean, as a matter of right, could they not come in at that point, you're saying, and build on those existing platted lots? I missed that part. You broke up a little bit, Joe, when you were speaking at the very end.
Yes, sir. If they replatted it, the lots would be of above the minimum size. I mean, there's.
Well, no, I'm saying if they don't replat it, if we approve this tonight as is with the existing lot sizes, do we still have any ability to then dictate to them to come back, or are they grandfathered in because of the existing plats, and that they would be able to build on those smaller lots, even though it may be underneath our existing code?
Yeah, we believe they are legal non-conforming uses, so they can build as is.
Right. So that would be my other concern, is we don't get this squared away, even though it may not go as far as I'd like it to go, but at least it's better than it is now. Before we approve it tonight, then in theory they could come in there and build those 3 houses and have even worse products with those 2 smaller lots. So those are my concerns, and again, I may vote against it in its current form, but I just wanted to be on the record on why. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Well, in that regard, what would we need to do procedurally tonight to go down that road of ensuring that we went through the waiver of plat process if there's no other process?
Well, I think that we could condition, Mayor, we're dealing with legislative and a quasi-judicial item, so our ability to deal with an approval of a legislative matter conditioned on a waiver of plat and the waiver of plat to satisfy the minimum lot size criteria. I think your ability, that's where you'd want to make that condition, or the approval of the Flume Amendment subject to the waiver of plat.
Okay. Thank you.
And certainly I'm happy to look at it, Mayor, with your staff, and if we can find a way to do it administratively, I mean, we'll do that, but I think that's the route if you're inclined to approve the Flume Amendment this evening.
All right. Thank you, Mr. White. Appreciate it.
Excuse me, I have a question. In case that you go with the waiver of plat, can you give us the permit for start to building the houses with the condition that I don't know when the process was approved, present the waiver, and we can not waste more time starting the construction?
Let me defer to our attorneys and our planning director, development services director on that one.
No, typically we need the planning applications to be completed before we accept the building plans for review. I mean, at a certain point, you've got to redo the site plans and everything to make them fit the new lots.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. And Mr. White, it's your advice that we need to do the legislative matter first, tab 13, prior to the rezoning?
Correct, Mayor. That's correct.
All right. So, Council, do we have a motion for approval with or without conditions as discussed on tab 13?
Move approval.
Is that as presented with no waiver?
Yes, as presented.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Do we have a second to that? Do we have a second to motion for approval with of tab 13 with no conditions? Seems as though motion fails for lack of second. So do we have a motion for approval with conditions on tab 13?
I'll move it with condition.
With the condition of the waiver of plat.
That is correct.
Thank you, Councilman Fletcher.
I'll second it with just a quick thought.
Okay, Mr. Roth, go ahead. Thank you, Councilman Roth. Thank you.
No problem. The waiver of plat is going to give those lots the ability to share a piece of the middle lot. Is that correct? So in other words, we're going to widen the two outer lots so their frontage is larger.
That's my intent, and that's been the conversation, yes.
Okay, so yeah, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. Councilman Roth, sorry. Anything further from council? So we have a roll call vote on tab 13, the motion for approval with the condition of waiver of plat to establish three equally sized lots.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilman Shelley?
No.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilman Ross?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, so then back to tab
Tab 12, Mayor.
12. Okay, we have a motion on the rezoning and the release of the covenant running with the land with respect to the B1A.
Move it.
Moved by Councilman Roth. Was that second on his Avila?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any further from council? Roll call vote?
Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila?
Yes.
Councilman Shelley?
No.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilman Ross?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Hey, Ms. Brenner?
Yes.
We'll get with staff and we'll try to find the best and fastest way to accomplish what we've talked about tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'm very familiar with that property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Good night.
All right, so are we on to, do we need to go back to tab 10 now?
That's correct, Mayor. Tab 10. Pick that back up. This is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the master development plan for the Homestead Park of Commerce located within the villages of Homestead, Development Regional Impact, requested by Doug LLC to modify the permitted land uses to include gas station with convenience stores, self-storage facilities, and restaurants as a permitted use within the Homestead Park of Commerce, as well as modifications to the general landscaping requirements and architectural controls related to building setbacks, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading.
Thank you. Do you have a staff report on this?
Yes, sir. We recommend that the mayor and council consider this proposed text amendment to the Park of Commerce master plan to do what the attorney suggested, modify the permitted land uses to include gas stations with convenience stores, self-storage facilities, restaurants, as well as the modifications to the architectural controls and the setbacks. This apparently stems from the legal settlement between the track and Doug LLC. Although we haven't been privy to that settlement, they are making this request. One thing is clear that this only applies to the two parcels in question. There's the old Solera site south of the Budweiser plant, and then there's the site north of the Budweiser plant. So these changes would only apply to those. You can see it in the map, in the hash mark, entire master plan. So with that, we're recommending you consider it, and we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Corradino. Is the applicant's representative present?
Yes, the applicant's representative is present, Mr. Mayor, and they've submitted a PowerPoint for the council's review.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Hugo Arza with law offices at 701 Brickell Avenue, joined by my colleague Alejandro Arias, and we represent Doug LLC in a proposed text amendment to the Homestead Park of Commerce. The two subject properties indicated by the stars on your screen are part of the Homestead Park of Commerce, a 280-acre tract of land south of North Canal Drive with a western boundary of Kingman and an eastern boundary of 162nd Avenue. As you can see, the two properties are at the western edge or perimeter of the Park of Commerce. The properties are currently vacant and in fact have been vacant throughout the entire time that the Park of Commerce regulations have been in place. One of the properties at the southeast corner of North Canal Drive in Kingman and the other one further south, the site known as the Solara site that has been the subject of some applications over the years and which we'll get into a little bit later, part of the reason why we are seeking some changes. The current land use and zoning of the property are PRAC or PRAC, Planned Regional Activity Center, as the current land use, and PUD, Planned Unit Development, for the current zoning of the property. The Homestead Park of Commerce came into being in the mid-2000s as a vision for the city to have an area with light industrial and commercial uses that would both serve the community at large in South Dade, but also provide for employment centers. There have been developments over the years, which you may be familiar with, a contender boat yard being prominent among them. However, the Park of Commerce has remained mostly undeveloped until now, even though it does provide for a series of development elements, including locations of roadways, landscaping, and architectural controls that were envisioned to try and facilitate development. A broad look at the general uses allowed in the Park of Commerce indicate office buildings and showrooms, broadcast operations and facilities, technology facilities, biomedical research and medical technology facilities, other commercial uses that may be compatible in hotels and motels. We have three specific requests for you today. The first one relates to that category or the list of uses that I just showed you on the previous slide. And we are seeking 3 additional uses that have not been until now contemplated for the Park of Commerce. And again, specifically only for the 2 folios that we've indicated in a previous slide. That is the southeast corner of Kingman and North Canal Drive, and the Solara site, which is a little further south along Kingman on the east side of Kingman. The first request is the modification of general land uses text to allow for gas stations with convenience stores, self-storage facilities, and restaurants. The second and third request that we have, the modification of general landscaping on Commerce Drive and the modification of general architectural controls, building setbacks, are as a result of the history of this ownership group, the Doug LLC group, with these properties. Unfortunately, some of the requirements were quite onerous with respect to the setbacks required and the amount of landscaping on the street. And frankly, they have made the site very untenable for development when folks and when developers and end users have come to try and use the property. A lot of the property has been lost for use due to the setbacks required. And while well-intentioned at the time of passing the ordinance and the Homestead Park of Commerce guidelines, it's evident after at least 15 years that with these guidelines in place, the development of these parcels has become very, very difficult. These requests will seek to address that And in fact, there are users for all three of the proposed new uses, gas station with convenience stores, self-storage facilities, and restaurants, who have shown interest in the property if we can secure these changes. With respect to the first one, the modification of the general land use text, as you can see highlighted at the end of this very long description, which we've already summarized a couple of slides before, is the additional sentence we would ask for. And I'll read it just for clarity. Additionally, for the Homestead Park of Commerce parcels further identified by Miami-Dade County Folio numbers 107921, 011, 0060, and 107921, 011, 0070, gas stations with convenience stores, self-storage facilities, and restaurant uses are also permitted. Again, these uses will be permitted only in these two folios, and that would be important, I think, for the character and for the Park of Commerce regulations to remain in effect throughout without opening the door for these uses throughout the entirety of the text of the park, I should say. As I noted in one of the slides earlier, these two parcels are at the western perimeter, so they are closest to the development areas. And so gas stations with convenience stores, self-storage facilities, and restaurant uses, which would benefit from obviously having residential uses nearby, they will have this. The two folios that we're proposing these changes for will have this. As many of you know, right across the street from both of these sites, generally speaking, on the west side of Kingman, Lennar Homes has already broken ground and in fact has closed on homes for a 770 home development that was approved last year by the city. And obviously beyond that to the west there are many more additional homes in the villages of Homestead DRI. So by placing these additional uses at the western edge of the Park of Commerce, you are capturing the population that has grown in this area without impacting the balance of the Park of Commerce, which may have other lighter industrial uses down the road that may come to being that would be better served by being further away from the population in the area. The general landscaping request that we have, request number 2, is to simply provide on the north side of the street, and I'm reading here from the second paragraph, with respect to the north side of the street, a 20% increase to the general landscape requirements shall be provided in order to enhance the view corridor and aesthetic character of Commerce Drive. In realization, as we realized that we would be promoting certain uses that were more commercial in nature rather than industrial, staff sought some additional guidelines with respect to the landscaping that we were going to provide. They also wanted to balance the next request, which I'll get into in a minute, which is the reduction of some setbacks with some additional landscaping. So in effect, this second request is one in which we will provide and will be in a position to provide additional landscaping, that which is required today. Obviously, it's any time that you can provide for additional landscaping and for an improvement to the aesthetic quality of a development, I think we can agree is a win-win both for the landowner but also for the surrounding community. Finally, the third request, the modification of general architectural controls building setbacks, talks with some specific or some specificity about the setbacks. And what we are doing is we are exempting these two folios from some of the more stringent requirements. And so reading from the top, there's a 50-foot setback from either side of Commerce Drive. However, for the two folios in question for this change, that will be reduced to 20 feet. 20 feet is still a sizable setback, but does allow for greater use of the property and is more consistent with the light commercial uses that we are contemplating here, whether it be restaurants or self-storage or a gas station with a convenience store, which is more of a daily use type of location. These setbacks were really in place mostly for industrial uses, and so they were greater in order to try and buffer from onerous or more onerous industrial uses. But as we introduced these more typical commercial uses, it made more sense to shorten these setbacks a bit and provide for a greater accessibility to the public at large. The second highlighted language here is for another stretch of road along Kingman Road and Alex Muxo Boulevard, that the building shall be set back 50 feet from the right-of-way, again with the exception of the two folios in question, which would be reduced to 20 feet. And then finally, at the northern end along North Canal Drive and 142nd Avenue, the buildings were to be set back 80 feet from the street right-of-way, which candidly was providing for almost an undevelopable site. That's a very large setback. Now we are reducing that to the 20 feet for that one particular folio. That folio is the one at the southeast corner of North Canal and Kingman, the smaller folio to the north, and the setback there shall only be 20. Any application in the Park of Commerce or generally in this part of the city of Homestead will always be vetted and reviewed by the Homestead Air Reserve Base, or HARB. We are happy to report that HARB has no objection to this application. They have determined that the property is not located in any of the accident potential zones, and as a result, you have a letter dated May 5th, 2020 in your packet that states this letter of no objection to our request, and we thank HARB for the opportunity to work with them to address any concerns that they had and to explain our application to them and to secure the no objection letter. In closing, I wanted to talk a little bit about the city's benefits and the benefits to this area by making these text amendments. As we've stated a couple of times in this presentation, the Homestead Park of Commerce has remained largely undeveloped over the years. It was envisioned as a place that would provide for certain commercial uses to which we would add as part of this application, and light industrial uses for the city of Homestead, for South Dade generally. Obviously, there's been a great residential growth over the years, without a doubt, in this area, and we know from the balance of the villages of Homestead and north of North Canal Drive that this area and this part of the city is well developed with residential uses. But there has been a dearth of commercial uses. You've either got to go up to Campbell or over to US 1, and sometimes, particularly for more commonplace daily uses, such as heading to a convenience store to pick something up, or perhaps to a restaurant to eat a meal, or to store. And so many families these days need additional self-storage facilities and need space. We felt that this was an opportunity to bring some additional uses to the area that would help with some of these bullet points that you see here, to help grow, to help provide additional restaurants, reduce longer trips within the area. We feel strongly that this is very complementary to the uses that are already contemplated here, and very complementary to the residential uses in the area. Additionally, and without getting into great detail, some of you may be aware that the Solara site, the site to the south of the southerly site of the two sites that we're considering here today for the changes, that is the larger site on the east side of Kingman, not the one at the corner, was at one point destined for a mixed-use development that would have had residential uses, including a townhome community. That use, and that residential use in particular, was challenged by the Homestead racetrack, and after a fairly long protracted legal battle, nearly 2 years, of which the city was also a party to, the owner of this property, Doug LLC, and the city and the racetrack reached a settlement agreement that created a sort of a hard line of Kingman Boulevard as the boundary for any residential development. So with no ability to develop residential uses to the east of Kingman, the Solara site needed to be re-envisioned and reconsidered. And so rather than a townhome community, I think that some of the uses that you would hopefully support this evening are the types of uses that you could hope to see on that site, proximate to residential uses to the west of Kingman, but uses that might support such as restaurants, light commercial, self-storage, and again, a gas station, or with a convenience store, which would more properly be located at the parcel to the north. But again, with the protracted litigation that took place, this area had to be re-envisioned, and we think this is precisely the type of re-envisioning that makes sense to provide for these light commercial uses. We want to thank staff for working with us. Text amendments can be tricky. You want to balance property rights with the bigger picture of the Park of Commerce, and that's why we've limited these requests to only these specific folios. We thought it was important to do so. We also thought it was important to work with staff for some of the additional landscaping that we're providing, and as always, it was a very collaborative effort. Obviously somewhat delayed by the global pandemic we're living through, but I also want to thank them for the efforts they've made to get this to a hearing at this point virtually, and I want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this presentation today, and to provide this valuable service of serving on the Planning and Zoning Board during a very challenging, difficult time. Being able to move forward with these projects will allow will allow folks to be employed, will allow businesses to open, will allow construction to take place that is complementary and supportive of this neighborhood. And we hope to have your support here today. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And again, I ask you for a favorable approval of these requests, text amendment requests to the Homestead Park of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arza. I'd open it up for questions and comments from council at this point.
Mr. Mayor.
Council Fletcher.
Yeah, I'm going to, kind of tattletale on myself here a little bit. I didn't do a whole lot of reading into this particular item as I was focusing more on a few others. I had a very brief conversation with the applicant's attorney. I have some concerns with this request. We have a school that is going to be located right across from a potential location of a gas station with a convenience store, which sometimes those tend to cause issues of loitering. And if the station's selling, adult beverages, potentials are there for that. And so there's going to be future requests down the roadway for, potential releases to for sale of beer and wine or things of that nature. Could it become a restaurant or a gas station? So, although I'm not, against moving this item forward for first reading, I think we need to do our due diligence and ensure that we are going to be meeting the real needs of the community at this point.
Thank you, Councilman Fletcher.
Mayor.
Councilman Shelley.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, when I first saw this too, I had some concerns as well about some of the proposed uses. Again, originally thinking it was applicable to the entire Park of Commerce, which I don't know that would have been amenable to that. But now understanding that it's limited to the 2 sites, I'm a little more comfortable with the types of products being proposed. I could see where they could fit in to the overall plan of the Park of Commerce if done correctly and done properly. I did speak with the applicant today and staff as well, and one of the things that I did have concerns about still, though, was the matter of right, their ability to build these things and whatever numbers they chose to do so within these properties. I think there's 23 or 24 acres in total, and not necessarily having an ability to assess what they're doing or how they're doing it once we grant this right. So one of the things staff had recommended I talked to the applicant about was some sort of a conditional use option that allowed us to then kind of assess their application process for more than just a site plan, but actually whether or not it fit. Were there too many? Did they want to put too many gas stations in there, too many restaurants in there, too many self-storage locations? Whatever the case might be, it would give us that ability to determine whether or not it made sense. The use itself still made sense in the quantity or, where and how they were proposing it. So that's something I would be interested in providing some additional safeguards I don't know if the applicant is still amenable to that option or not.
Mr. Arza?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Good evening. Excuse me, Hugo Arza, law offices at 701 Brickell Avenue. Thank you so much for your time. I did discuss with Councilman Shelley that concept. We don't have an objection to working with council and with staff on incorporating a conditional use permit process as an additional language to these changes, so that I think as the councilman envisions that it would be that these uses in these particular folios would only be allowed, or these folios would only allow these uses, but would have the additional conditional use permit. That would be acceptable to us, and we could work with staff on how that language would proceed.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. That's something that I think is important, making sure we have the safeguards and controls we need moving forward. So with that, Mayor, that's my comments or concerns, and I would ask that if this moves forward tonight, that it does have that direction to have staff work with the applicant for a conditional use permit process.
Thank you, Councilman. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mayor, for me? Thank you. No, I agree completely. There are a few things that I'm not completely comfortable with, but with a conditional use process to be in place, I would support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Ross?
Yeah, I'm good with what's been said now. Get through the first reading and we can polish it up a little bit at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Anything further, Councilwoman Alvarez?
No, same with me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Well, let me talk about where I came at, you know, kind of like Mr. Fletcher talking about some initial reactions. And it probably wouldn't be polite for me to say the first phrase that came to my mind when I saw who and what this was. But the second phrase of words that came to my mind was, I told you so. Because one of my concerns with the Copart application was that approval was going to open the door for other property owners, present and future, in the Park of Commerce to come in and ask for something that was not envisioned. And here we are. Clearly, these uses were never envisioned. My next analysis was the park was intended as job creation. I can't argue much with you about restaurants and even a convenience store with a gas station, but common sense tells me that the larger interior parcel is going to be a pretty good sized self-storage facility. And I don't know that self-storage facilities create a lot of jobs. So in addition to the 98 acres that Copart took off of the job market, they've potentially got that other acreage on the larger interior parcel where jobs are being permanently taken off of the market by the construction of a potential self-storage facility. And certainly in light of tonight, knowing what looks like we'll have final approval down on the Speedway property, there is the potential, I believe, and I would hope that you all would join with me, of the domino effect of those other users finally coming in that create jobs that are far closer to the vision of the Park of Commerce than either Copart or a self-storage facility. You know, so in that regard, I'm not supportive of the self-storage concept, and certainly I share the same concerns that others have as to the proximity of a convenience store, and let's face it, we're talking about some kind of drive-through fast food joint on the corner of Kingman and Canal Drive. Let's just call it what it is. So, and I'll touch on that in a moment. Either by design or default, for the entire life of the Park of Commerce, we've enjoyed not being able to see what is in there from Kingman Road. It looks like a nice wooded area. There's no clue really as to what is in there. Would this setback change and landscaping change impact the visibility or take away from that safeguard with respect to particularly the northernmost corner parcel would be one of my concerns. And are driveways into Kingman Road from the Park of Commerce prohibited, or are we going to creating potentially a real busy commercial corner located in the Park of Commerce that spills out into Kingman Road? Those were my concerns. I think that we're finally back on track, and with the earlier approval tonight, we really have the potential not to be in a position to have to permit something like a self-storage facility that does not create jobs. So that's where I am on this. Mr. Arza, if you could address some of my concerns on the northern parcel and its relation and visibility as to Kingman.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So just, a couple points. I mean, on that point, again, I think the setbacks were intended for heavier industrial uses. It would not be typical, and again, it would require, and we would only have these reduced setbacks for these particular uses, but for these more commercial uses, the setback we're requesting would be more typical and traditional. With landscaping, we don't think that there would be any adverse effects to the city. I will note this application's been in for quite some time. I know my firm handled Copart. I did not personally. I don't know when that was filed exactly, but again, this Solaris site will probably be completely done, finished, and built out under prior approvals, but for a very long and protracted litigation battle. So, I think we've tried to have this particular parcel be something else in the past, and that failed, and it failed at great cost both to the landowner and to the city in the form of legal fees and other challenges. And so, we didn't just come to this, recently and lightly. This is a use that, one of many uses. And again, these are just a list of uses, and I showed it in my presentation. These would just be 3 more. Certainly, and I've shown no objection to adding a conditional use permit process. These would just be 3 more, and it may be that these sites will get something different. It may be that it's these things. These are interests that some end users have shown, and we just want that flexibility. And this is just very much the first step. It looks like there'll be, if we're, even successful, we would have to have a site plan approval, as you always have. And it looks like, based on the commentary this evening, that it'll be attached to a conditional use permit. So the questions of a convenience store near a school or anything else, obviously, this council and future councils at the time of development will have an opportunity to review. So we think when you balance all of those factors, that the request is reasonable and does still allow for the Park of Commerce, which is nearly 300 acres, to have plenty of land for some of the more perhaps greater job creating ventures that we all hope come to the city, because it'll serve even the uses that we're hoping to get approved here tonight.
All right, thank you. Any further from council?
Mayor, this is James here. I just have a quick question or clarification for Councilman Shelley. With regards to, we were mentioning conditional uses. In Homestead, traditionally, we don't call them conditional uses. We call them special exceptions, and we have special exception criteria already established in the zoning code. So are we using the term interchangeably, or are we thinking about something differently?
No, I think that's exactly what I'm thinking of, is where something comes before us and there are certain conditions that have to be met that gives us as a council the flexibility to assess it on more than just a site plan scenario, but actually assess its use. So that's what I'm envisioning, what we call it. You guys can let me know what the best way is to proceed, but that's the safeguards that I'm looking to put in place for this council or future councils as they're assessing these projects that come before us, that they just can't, as a matter of right, come and build a gas station, self-storage facility, et cetera, that there's certain additional evaluations and considerations that we as a council can go through in determining whether we think it makes sense or fits what's occurring in the Park of Commerce at the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. White, I have no objection. I know I should know your code better. And in fact, I know when I discussed this with Councilman Shelley, I even said to him, well, I think I said, I'm not sure there's a conditional use process. I never actually went and checked. The special exception process, I think, is the one that we would all be thinking.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hart.
Thank you. If there's nothing further to count, Mr. Shelley, would you like to try to craft a motion to that effect on this matter?
I mean, yeah, so essentially it would be, yeah, it would be approved with a condition that we establish a special exception for these uses as part of the process.
Thank you. James, Garza, we're clear on the intent there? for moving this forward?
Yes, sir. If you're asking me, yes, we are clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have a second?
I think Bailey did.
Yes, I'll second.
Does someone want to weigh in? Okay. Do we have a second?
Yes, Bailey seconded it.
Thank you. Thank you. Second by Bailey. Any further from council? Is there anyone in the public with their hand up?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right. Well, if there's nothing further, then I'll close the public hearing and ask for a roll call vote.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avenue?
Yes.
Councilman Ross?
Yes.
Mayor Losner?
No.
The motion carries.
Thank you. So
Thank you all.
Thank you. Does that take us back to tab 16?
That's correct, Mayor.
Thank you. That's yours, Ms. McCaffrey?
Yes, Mayor, it is. On September 11, 2020, the city manager's office was notified of a water main in conflict with the road expansion work being performed by FDOT as part of the Campbell Drive truck bypass project that needed to be relocated as soon as possible in order to minimize any delays in the project. Due to the nature of the emergency, the city manager's office under section 2-413 emergency purchases has authorized that an emergency purchase order be issued to the Redland Company, the lowest quote, for $50,952. This is an emergency purchase notification to council by staff as required by the City of Homestead Code of Ordinances, Section 2-413, emergency purchases, and no action is required. This was the emergency repair that we previously notified council of.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Do we have any further public comments? Is there anyone in line to make any public comment tonight?
I don't see anybody with their hands on. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Very good. Thank you. Anything further, Ms. McCaffrey?
No, Mayor.
Mr. Attorney?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Shelley?
Nothing significant, Mayor, although I do want to raise something, I guess, that occurred during the budget hearing as far as during the public comment section. I know that we had someone that got up and did make a comment or make accusations of potential retaliation by the city for, comments being made or attendance to a meeting. And I just think it'd be important for staff to investigate that to make sure that we can either confirm or deny whether that did occur. I mean, that's a pretty serious allegation, and it's an important thing for us to make sure is not occurring or does not occur, as part of the process. So I just wanted to raise that and ask for have it be looked into. Other than that, it's a late night, so I have nothing further to there.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for making a note of that.
And we'll follow up on that, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Councilman Fletcher.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Due to the late hour, I will yield my comments to our next public meeting. Have a good night.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Councilman Roth?
Nothing further, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Avila?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll rest.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Bailey?
Thank you, Mayor. Just really quick, this Saturday at 3 p.m., the Southwest Advisory Committee and myself are hosting our second community conversations through Zoom. We are inviting all parents to discuss any concerns or all the concerns that we're all facing at this time. We have many different organizations, everything from educators to mental health professionals. So if anybody is interested, this Saturday, 3 p.m., and the details for the Zoom meeting is on cityofhomestead.com/SWAC. Thank you, Mayor. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, really quickly, we need to announce or confirm the appointment to the General Employees Pension Board, Emil Corrales, who's a city employee, and whose appointment has been requested by the employee group. So could we have a motion to confirm that appointment?
Move approval.
Have a motion?
I'll second.
I heard a second. Councilwoman Bailey, is there anyone who wishes to be recorded as a no vote? Thank you all. And just very quickly, we need to announce there is a vacancy to be filled on the City of Homestead Police Pension Board. That slot is to be occupied by a resident of the City of Homestead. And then, sadly, we have to announce a vacancy on the Public Art Committee. And Madam Clerk, if you would advertise both of those vacancies, and certainly council members, if you think of anyone, if you would encourage them to submit through the clerk's office for consideration and naming at our next regular council meeting. With that, I agree. It's been a long night, but we're an hour earlier than we were a couple of months ago. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move it.
Seconded. All in favor? Thank you to everyone.